Hi, I'm Jeremiah. Welcome to the team. Today, we're going to show you how to do the inspections of the bus. Alright, we will be demoing the lights to begin the inspection. The inspector is going to be outside watching, so you'll start by turning the bus electrical on with the switch 2 clicks to the right. 1, 2. We're going to be demoing our low beams. They're on. Our high beams, good. Our left signal, our right signal, our 4-way flashers. We'll be checking our tail lights, our left signal in the back, our right signal in the back, our 4-way flashers, and our brake lights. Alright, for the next part of our checks, we're going to be checking the air supply gauge. It's 2 clicks to the right. We're going to start the bus. We need to start the test with 90 psi or less so that it'll build up air. So I'm going to fan the brakes. Alright, we're going to let the air build up, and I'm going to turn on the fast idle so that the process moves a little bit faster. And the air governor needs to cut out at 120 up to 140 psi. There it was, and it cut out at 125 psi, so we know that's working properly. Alright, now we'll be doing the air leak check. For that, we're going to turn the bus off. 2 clicks to the left. We're going to be turning the electrical back on. 2 clicks to the right. We'll be releasing the parking brake, and we'll be pressing in the service brake, holding it down for 1 minute, noting that we will not be losing 3 psi in 1 minute per single vehicle. Here we go. I'm at 100 psi. Starting. Okay, it has been 1 minute, and we are at 100 psi still, so we did not lose any psi, and we are looking good. Alright, now we'll be checking our low air warning system. For that, we're going to fan the brake, and our low air warning device should activate before air pressure drops below 55 psi. So here we go, we're going to fan it. There it was, and it started going off at 75 psi, so we know that's working properly. Okay, now we'll be moving on to our parking brake check. For that, we're going to fan the brake, and at approximately 40 psi, the parking brake needs to pop up. There it was, and it popped up at 50 psi, so we know it's working properly. Alright, now we'll be doing our safety start. We're going to turn the master switch off, make sure the parking brake is set, which it is because it just went off, and the bus is in neutral. Master switch 2 clicks to the left. 1, 2. Master switch back on, 2 clicks to the right. And we're checking that our ABS system light comes on and then back off. That is working properly. We're going to start the bus. And we're going to put air in the door. Okay, next we're going to be demoing the seatbelt. So we're We're checking that the seatbelt doesn't have any rips or frays. We're checking that it is properly adjusted. Feels good. And we are checking that it is securely mounted with no loose or broken parts. Good. Okay. Now we're done with the seatbelt. We will be checking our dash lights. So we're going to be checking the left blinker, the right blinker, the four-way flashers, and our high beams. What's wrong? There it is. They're all working properly. All right, continuing on, we're going to be checking our gauges, starting with our oil pressure gauge, showing that it's at normal oil pressure, which it is. Our warning light is off, up at the top, and it is operating properly. Next is our coolant gauge. It is at normal operating range, and the warning light is off. It is operating properly. Our voltmeter gauge is charging. The warning light is off, and it is operating properly. Now beautiful. Checking the heater and defroster. So I'm going to demo them for you. Cold, heat, floor, defroster. We're turning on and we're checking them. Defroster feels good. Heater feels good. Now we'll be checking our mirrors. We're checking that they're clean, that they're adjusted properly, and that there's no cracks that impair vision, and that there's no excessive dirt. Now we'll be checking our windshield. We're checking that it is clean, that it doesn't have any obstructions, such as stickers or decals, and there's no cracks that would impair vision. Now we'll be checking our windshield and wipers. We're going to be demoing them by turning them on. We're noting that they are operating smoothly and properly, and that they are not cracked or broken, and that they are securely mounted. Okay, now we're going to be doing our parking brake check. For that, we're going to have the parking brake engaged. Okay, we're going to put the vehicle in a low gear, and we're going to attempt to pull forward, noting that the parking brake holds. Okay, and we didn't move, so we know that the parking brake is working properly. Now we're going to be doing the service brake check. So we're going to release the parking brake. We're going to put the vehicle in a low gear. We're going to pull forward slowly, and we're going to apply the service brake, stopping the bus, and the bus cannot pull left or right. Okay, and it did not. So that is working properly. And you have to demo the horn.
Does it feel good?
Feels good. Wow. Alright, next we'll be doing the lift ramp check. So for that, we're making sure that the vehicle is in neutral, that the parking brake is set. Yield the bus. Open up the door. Getting the ramp out. Noting that it is not leaking. And there is no broken, cracked, or missing parts, and that it latches and retracts securely. Looking good.
Alright.
Now we will be demoing the door. We're going to open it, seeing that it's operating smoothly and that it is closing securely. Alright, next we're going to be checking the hinges with the seals intact and that they are not torn, ripped, or frayed. We're checking the handrails, that they are secure with no loose or missing nuts or bolts. And we're checking the door windows, that they are not cracked or shattered. They're free of excessive dirt. The step lights are working. we're checking that the stepway is clear. We're checking that the treads are not loose or excessively worn. Okay. We're going to turn off the bus and release the air in the door. Bus off, 2 clicks to the left. And releasing air in the door. Alright, now we'll be checking that the aisleway is clean with nothing blocking it. Nothing but dust in here. Now we're checking our safety equipment. My fire extinguisher is located here. It is properly charged. It is securely mounted. We don't have any spare fuses, but we do have circuit breakers that are located right here. Our emergency reflectors are right here, and we have 3 of them. Next we'll be demoing our emergency exits. For this one, you break the window, you turn the red handle, and you push the door open. Then we'll be moving on to these ones. We have one here, one there, one there, one there, one there. And then we also have the roof hatch. For the roof hatch, you need to turn the latch, and then you push it up, out, and then... Alright, and we're going to make sure that all the emergency exits aren't damaged, that they are operating smoothly, and that they open and close securely. I'm going to demo one for y'all. Put that on there. Oh, it's open there. Beauty. Close securely. Right. Now we're going to be checking the seats. So we're checking that the seat frames are not broken, that the frames are securely attached to the floor, and that the cushions are attached to the frame. Things looking good. This concludes my interior bus inspection. Make sure that you grab your key. And that we use 3 points of contact when exiting the bus. Alright, now we're checking that the bus is level and that it is not leaning to one side. We're checking for a flat tire or any broken springs. Now we're checking for audible air leaks from suspension, and we're looking for fluid leaks such as water or oil. Go over here too. Looks good. Alright, now we're going to be checking the tires, making sure that the tread depth is at least 4/32 tread depth in the front tire, that there is no tread separation, that they are evenly worn. We're looking for cuts, bumps, or abrasions in the sidewall. Valve stems are not missing, cracked, broken, or leaking. We're checking for proper inflation with a tire gauge. Now we're checking our rims, that they're not cracked or bent, and that there is no visible welding repairs. Now we're going to be checking the hub oil and axle seal. We're checking that it's not leaking, and the hub oil's at the proper level. Now we're checking that there is no loose or missing lug nuts, that there is no rust trails of shiny threads showing that they are loose, no cracks or distorted holes coming from the lug bolt holes. Next, we're going to be checking the brake drums, that they're securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts or bolts. We're checking for cracks, dents, or holes. We're also checking for contaminants such as debris, grease, or oil. We're checking the brake linings now. We're checking that there's no loose or missing parts, that they're not cracked or broken, that they are not worn dangerously thin. We're checking for contaminants such as debris, grease, or oil. Now we're checking the brake hoses and lines. We're checking that they're not cracked, bulging, worn, or frayed. That the hose fittings and couplings are securely mounted. That the hoses aren't leaking, rubbing, or touching other components. We're checking that the hoses and lines can supply air. Now we're checking the brake chambers, that they're securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts or bolts or clamps, not leaking, cracked, or dented. Now we're checking our slack adjusters and push rods, that they are securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts or bolts. We're checking for bent, broken, or loose or missing parts on the slack adjusters, and that the push rods should not move more than 1 inch with the brakes released when pulled by hand. Now we're checking the airbags. We're checking that the airbags are securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts or bolts. There's no cuts or bulges or leaks. We're checking the spring mounts and hangers, that they are securely mounted with no loose or missing bolts or brackets. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. There's no missing or worn bushings. Checking the torque arm, that they're securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts or bolts, not cracked or broken. Next is U-bolts, checking that they're securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts or bolts, that they are not cracked or broken. And now our shock absorbers, securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts or bolts, and there's no leaks. Now we're going to be checking our mud flaps, that they're securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts or bolts, that they're not cracked or broken. Now we're checking the frame, that there's no cracks or broken welds or holes in the longitudinal frame. No loose, cracked, bent, broken, or missing cross members. Good. Now we're checking the fuel tanks, that they're securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts, bolts, or mounting parts, that the cap is tight, and there's no signs of leak from the cap or the tank.
Oops, that's a weird. Yep, that'll work. Alright.
Now we'll be checking the rear axle and the wheel differences. We're checking that the duals are not touching, that there's no debris lodged in between. We're checking that the rear tire tread depth is at least 2/32 tread depth. We're looking for missing, shifted, cracked, or broken leaf springs.
See him in there?
Looking pretty good. I don't see nothing. We'll inspect all the like components on the rear axle as I would on the front axle, including the tires, rims, hub and axle seal, the lug nuts, brake drums, brake linings, brake hoses and lines, brake chambers, slack adjusters and push rods, airbags, spring mount hangers, torque arms, U-bolts, shock absorbers, and the mud flaps. Compartment door, it's not cracked or broken, and we're checking that it's operating properly. Get a hand on it. Got this side. Continue. Now we're going to be checking the power steering reservoir. We're checking that it's securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts or bolts. We're identifying the dipstick, and we're checking that it is at safe operating range. All right, and as we close it, we're checking that it latches securely. latch is securely good. Now we're going to open the back compartment for the engine. Now we're checking the hoses. We're looking for puddles on the ground. We're looking for dripping fluids on the underside. We're inspecting the hoses of their condition and leaks around the fittings. We're checking the hoses for cuts, cracks, bulges, or abrasive wear. We are now checking the coolant level. We're identifying the coolant reservoir in the sight glass. And we're checking that the coolant is in safe operating range. Now we're checking the exhaust system. We're checking that it's securely mounted and tightly connected. There's no loose or missing nuts or bolts, clamps, or mounting brackets. There's no cracks, holes, or severe dents, and there's no signs of exhaust leaks such as rust or carbon soot. Next, identify the oil dipstick and that the oil level is above the refill mark and is within safe operating range.
Yes. You got one more, boss. There you go.
That's right, we got the top one. That's what you mean.
No. There you go. Hey! What's in there?
Now we're identifying the water pump and that it is belt driven. We're checking that it is securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It is operating properly, it is not leaking, and the belt is not frayed, cracked, or worn. There is no loose fibers and does not deflect more than 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch from the center of the belt. Next, identify the alternator and that it is belt driven. We need to check that it is securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It is not cracked or broken and it is operating properly. All wires are securely fastened. They're not exposed, broken, or burned. We're checking that the belt is not frayed, cracked, or worn. There's no loose fibers and does not deflect more than 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch from the center of the belt. Now we're checking the air compressor, checking that it's gear driven and is securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It is operating properly and it is not leaking. Next we'll be checking the power steering pump and that it's gear driven. It's securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It's operating properly and it is not leaking. Now we'll be checking our drive shaft. It is securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts or bolts. It's not bent, twisted, or cracked. And the U-joints are free of foreign objects. Now we're going to close this all up. Make sure it latches securely, fastenedly. Now we'll be checking the lights and reflectors in the back. We're checking that the light lenses are clean, they're not missing or cracked, and they're the proper color for their function and in the proper location. We're checking that the tail lights are red, that the clearance lights are red, the turn signals left and right, and the four-way flashers are amber in color, and that the brake lights are red.
Good job.
Alright, now we're going to be checking the left rear axle. We're checking everything here the same as we did on the right rear axle. Now we're moving up. We're going to check this left front axle tire as we did the same on the right side of the front.
Good.
Next we'll be checking the steering box. We're checking that it is securely mounted to the frame with no loose or missing nuts, bolts, or cotter keys. And then we're going to be checking the steering hoses. that there's no signs of cuts, cracks, or leaks. There's no signs of bulges or abrasive damage from rubbing against other parts. Now we're going to be doing the steering linkage. We're checking that it's securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts or bolts or cotter keys. We're checking the links, arms and rods from the box to the wheel, that they're not excessively worn, cracked, or loose. We're checking that the joints and sockets are not excessively worn or cracked. Now we're checking our mirrors and brackets, that they're securely mounted to the vehicle with no loose fittings or brackets, that they're not cracked or broken. We're going to be checking the lights and reflectors on the front and side. We're checking that the light lenses are clean, they're not missing or broken, that they're the proper color for their function and location. We're checking the clearance lights, turn signals, left and right, the four-way flashers, that they're all amber for the front and side of the bus. The headlights, high and low beams, are clear. Now we're going to be checking the wipers. We're checking that the arms and blades are securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts or bolts, and that they're not cracked or broken. And this concludes my inspection. One minute per single vehicle? I am at... I don't know. Let's read. Approximately 40 psi, the parking brake should pop up.
I think it's already popped up.
Oh, come on.
There it was. Our parking brake popped up at 50 psi. Alright, next we're going to be doing the seatbelt demo. So we're going to be checking the seatbelt for no rips or frays or tears. We don't need to say that.
How does it feel?
Feels good.
Okay.
Now, should I say now? And not torn, ripped, or frayed. The handrails are securely mounted. I lost it.
That's okay.
No.
Go.
Now I'm going to demo one of the emergency exits, noting that they're not damaged, that they're operating smoothly, and that they securely close. We're checking that the emergency exits are not damaged, that they are operating smoothly, and that they securely... Alright, now we're going to be checking that the emergency exits are not damaged, that they are operating smoothly, and that they securely close in and out. I'm going to demo one for you. Of course, that was good. You know, before you got in here, I was fighting this thing for like 5 minutes. Making sure that I could do it right.
Do you want to do another one? Let's do another one.
Yeah, let's do another one. Yeah.
First try.
It's good. Alright, now we're going to check the seats. We're checking that the seat frames are not broken. And we're checking that the...
Does it feel good?
no broken seat. It definitely feels good.
Does this conclude your interior bus inspection?
Yes, this concludes my interior bus inspection. Make sure that we grab our key. Oh, geez. We're gonna have to redo this. I'm sure. Now we're checking the lug nuts that they're not loose or missing. I want to redo that one.
That was good so far.
Now we're checking the frame. There is no cracks, broken welds, or holes in the longitudinal frame. There's no cracks, broken welds, or holes in the longitudinal. Did you say go?
Oh yeah.
All right, now we're going to be checking the rear axle. As let's redo it. We're looking for missing, shifted, cracked, or broken leaf springs. Aren't we, Jody?
Why did you?
Why are you filming me?
Oh, the peripheral is disconnected. Well, connect again. I don't know.
Zoomed right to you.
It was just like a good. No, we're...
Cracks, bulges, or abrasive wear.
Go.
Now we're going to identify the oil dipstick and that the oil level is above the refill mark within safe operating range. What's this word?
Jeremiah, which one is the water pump?
I knew it was one of the circle things.
What one's the alternator?
This one.
Okay. What are the circles?
It's this big little circle here.
Okay.
You ready? All wires are securely fastened and there's no exposed, broken, or burned. All right. Now we're going to check this left rear axle and we're going to check it all the same stuff did on the other side.
Okay.